Another challenge that I have faced as CEO, and it is annoying and it feels like it never goes away, is decision fatigue. At the end of the day, I am the person that is making the final decision on most things within the company. Now, I've been able to delegate quite a bit of that, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But you know that the reality is when you want things done a certain way, you need to be the final check mark to ensure that it is. And in that way, it always feels like there are a myriad of decisions that are waiting on me. Every time I have answered something, it feels like new questions are coming up, which kind of feels like playing a game of whack a mole. I'll make a decision, I'll implement something new, I'll move on, and then something else will be falling. I use the example all the time of Encanto, which, if you haven't seen it, amazing Pixar movie. But there's a point in the movie where like the bricks start shaking in this house, right? And so the character runs over and puts her hand on that brick to stop it from shaking. And she's like, whew, so glad that that stopped moving. And while she's doing that, like a column on the house is falling down. That's what it can feel like to run a small business, where as soon as you're putting a fire out in one place, you realize that a flood is happening in another. Now, I will be honest and say I haven't figured out the perfect solution in relying on my team and kind of building this bridge between what I should be responsible for and what they have to do. But what I have done is set priorities and set boundaries. So the first thing is I require that the team go to other resources before they come to me. If this is a tax question, you know how to get to the IRS website. Go look at that, see what you can glean from that information, and then ask me the specific questions about how we'll respond or the ways that we'll respond. I also try to make sure that we are really giving resources to the team, trainings, that we are specific about how everything works internally, everything from naming conventions to how we communicate with each other and clients to where we put information that we're going to use. We have an intranet that gives a ton of information about how we work. And that also helps with redundancy throughout the team because now anybody can step in and at least have the basic framework for how things get done here. That helps me to have to make less decisions because they are at the forefront of the work. And so I tell the team often, if there is something that will improve your role here, let's pay for it. Let's make that easy for you. Don't leave it to me to make a decision on something that is going to directly impact your work if you can do the research to bring us to a point where we can make a choice without me having to be the final word. The reality is there's only so many things that I can effectively focus on at one time. So I can look at a couple of big things, but I can't look at all of the things. And that means I have to rely on the team that I hired to be able to take that off my plate. But I also have to empower them. We have to make sure that they have everything that they need in order to make decisions and feel confident doing so on our behalf. On the client side, this is also helpful because we're able to take some of those decisions off of our clients' plates, right? So when we're doing our financial and business advisory services, we're able to say, hey, this is the best software for you to use. These are the numbers that you should be looking at. Based on the goal that you told me, here's the KPI that best reflects that. And here's where you are in comparison to that benchmark. What we want to do is make sure that our clients are not using all of their time just trying to figure out what they should be thinking about. And instead, how can we be proactive about bringing to the surface the things that are most important to them? And then them being able to use what they have to be able to make the decisions that only they can make. After all, we know our businesses better than everyone. Our goal is just to provide as much support as possible to the final decision maker so that they don't have to take on all of the baggage of figuring out how to get there.